Okay, cool. So as I have already said, we are going to style this beautiful header with three resolutions. So the first one is for the desktop, the second one is for the tablet, and the last one is for the mobile devices. And I want to style it first with Flexbox only, and I'm going to actually start with creating the HTML layout for the header. So let me switch back to my browser, actually to my VS Code IDE, and I'm gonna open this live server session, and I'm going to remove all the styles, and then I'm going to remove all the HTML. If you can hear me well, guys, please let me know so that I know that everybody can hear me. Okay, hopefully
Yeah,
everybody
I
can.
can hear you.
Yep,
We
okay,
can hear
thanks.
you.
Cool, cool. So, okay, so, and let's start with creating the layout. So if we take a, let me actually move the mockup just a bit more closer to the actual IDE right here. Okay, so we have, so let's think about what we actually have here. So we have the section of the header, right? And this header is pinned to the edges of the browser of the viewport, right? So I would say that this header represents a section, or we can utilize the semantic header tag. Then inside of the header, we have some content container that holds three children, right? So the logo, then the navigation, and then these social links here on the right. So it means that we can use the Flexbox for the header to align this child container that holds the header content with the justify content and align items rules, CSS rules. And then we will have another Flex container inside that aligns these three elements. And more than that, since we have this distance here that is expected to be shrinking if we decrease the width of the viewport, we will have another wrapper for these two children, the logo and the navigation, and then we will have the child of the for the social icons. Yeah, let's actually build this HTML first. So I'm gonna say that we will have the header, which represents the section that will have the full width of the viewport, right? So, okay, so inside of the header, we will have we need the container that wraps the content of the header. And I will say that this is going to be the, let's say, header container class. Oops, header. Let me fix the typos. Okay, cool. So then inside of the header, we will have the left part that holds the logo and the navigation, and then the right part that holds the social icons, right? So I will say that this is going to be have the class of, let's say, logo navigation. And then we will have the second child that will have the class of social icons. Okay, social icons. Oops. Inside of the social icons, we will have four items that every item represents each individual social icon, right? So I'm going to create the class of social item, and I will duplicate it 4 times because we have 4 social icons. So then inside of the logo navigation, we will have the logo class. Oops, the div of class logo, and it will just say logo for now. Then on the next child is going to have is the actual navigation. So I will use the semantic nav tag, then the unordered list, and then the list items. So I will say li multiplied by 5, I believe, to have 5 list items. And actually, I want to set the content for each list item. So the content, actually, it will have the anchor tag inside with the content of the link, and I will use the iterator symbol to create 5 links. Boom. So now, as you can see, we have 5 list items. Each of them has the anchor tag inside with the text of link 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, looks good. Let's save this. Let's see what we got here. So we have this content. So the HTML is pretty much set. we will probably need to add some more classes while we work here. But anyways, we are not touching the HTML pretty much anymore. Okay, let's go to the styles and let's actually start styling. So first of all, I want to add the class for the header, and I will say class of top header. It's because I prefer to style everything through the classes, and due to the specificity issue. So when you style everything through classes, it kind of guarantees that the specificity is pretty much the same from element to element, and it lets you escape some issues. Okay, so let's say top header here, and I'm gonna copy this top header, and then I'm going to go to the styles CSS file and create this selector. And for the top header, I will set the background color, let's say of 353535. Okay, so then I'm gonna set the color to be white. And as you remember, we have this padding on the top or margin on the top and on the left, and it actually comes from the default styles for the body tag that has this margin of 8 pixels. So what I also want to do is I want to use the universal selector to actually drop all the styles, all the paddings, all the default paddings, and all the default margins for the every element in this layout. And I'm going to use the border box sizing property to change it to border box so that all the content I have inside of the containers gets shrinked by the containers in case the width or the height of the container changes. Okay, so let's save this. Boom, we don't have any paddings or margins here anymore. Looks good. So then the top header, again, as we discussed it, represents a Flex container that has a Flex child inside, and we can utilize the alignment properties of the align items and justify content to center this container with the content, right? So I'm going to go back to the, actually, let me do the following. Let me move it even more close here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this is the display of, it has the display property of its flex value. Then I will use the align item center and then justify content center, even though I could use the margin 0 auto for the actual container that holds this content. So then I'm going to create another selector. So we have the header container class that holds the content, right? So I will copy this class and I will add it to the new selector. And I will say that it has the width of, let's say the width of 100%. So I'm gonna let it take the full width of its parent by default, but then I'm going to limit it with the width of 964 pixels. So I will say max width is going to be, say, 964 pixels, right? Okay, let's save this. So if we inspect this container now, so we have the header of with the class of top header that takes the full width of the viewport. It's pinned to the browser edges, right? And then inside of this header, we have this header container that takes only 964 pixels, and it is centered horizontally, right? So the other property I want to add is some padding on the top and on the bottom, and I'm gonna add it to the top header section, saying padding. So it's gonna have, let's say 30 pixels of padding on the left and the right side, and it's gonna have like 30, let's just say use 30 pixels here. Okay, let's save this, boom. So now if I inspect this container again, as you can see, it's gonna be of 964 pixels wide, and the top container now has the padding on the left and on the right, and on the top and on the bottom of 30 pixels, right? Okay, so then let's go back here and let's start styling the content. So first of all, I want to set some styles for the social item here, just to make sure we can see those elements in our layout. So I'm gonna say that the social item has the width of, let's say, 40 pixels. Then it has the height of 40 pixels. And then it has the background color. I will use the Devslopes brand color, which is the A5252. Let's save this. Okay, so now we have those 4 elements, right? And what I now want to do is to place them horizontally, adding some distance between them. And we can utilize the flex box here, right? So I will go copy the selector name, the class name. It's the social icons. I'm going to add this selector here. And then I will say that the social icons has the display of flex. Then it has the gap of, let's say, 10 pixels, for example. And let's see how it has updated. So now we have 4 squares, right, that are aligned horizontally with the gap of 10 pixels between those items. Also, for the social item, I want to set the border radius of 50%, since and percentage will work here because we have a perfect square, which means that adding the border radius of 50% will just create this circle from this square, right? So I'm going to say border radius is going to be 50%. Okay, so now we have 4 circles instead. Then what I want to do is I want to add the icon into each of these containers here. So to do that, I'm gonna add the font awesome script into my HTML. So, and what you can actually do to get those icons, the font awesome icons, you can go to the fontawesome.com. Then you can take the click the start section here. It will ask you for your email, and then when you provide it with your email and click send kit embed code, it will send you a script to your email that you can copy and paste into your HTML. So I already have one, so I'm just gonna find it real quick. And so it's the font awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna find the script, I'm gonna set it here. So now we should have access to the font awesome icons. And to add the font awesome icon, what I need to do is I need to utilize the I tag and then the class of the icon. So as far as I remember, the YouTube icon should be something like FA space FA YouTube. Let's see if it works. And excuse me, it actually did. So as you can see, we have this YouTube icon here on the first circle. And how do I place this icon inside of the circle, perfectly centered vertically and horizontally? I can actually utilize Flexbox again. So I can make this social item to be a Flexbox too, and utilize the align items, justify content and align items properties. Okay, let's do that. So I'm gonna say that the social item has the display of flex, then justify content is going to be center, and then the align items is going to be centered too. Okay, let's save this. Now, as you can see, I have this YouTube icon perfectly centered within the circle, right? So what I can also do is I can just increase the font size just a bit here. So I want to say that the font size is going to be 24 pixels. Let's try this value. Boom, we now have this enlarged YouTube icon here inside. And let's actually do the same for the LinkedIn, for the Facebook. So I'm gonna paste this here, saying FA Facebook. It should have the Facebook logo. Then I will use the LinkedIn logo, right? So it's gonna be the FA LinkedIn. So let's check those icons. So we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, and what was the last one? I believe it was the Instagram. Okay, so let's go and add the Instagram icon here. FA Instagram. Okay, should work. Let's refresh the page, and it didn't. Instagram. Okay, so now we have those social icons. Cool. So, so following the layout here, what we need to do now is we need to place those social icons on the right from the logo and the navigation. Hold on a second, please. And to do that, we again need to remember that this container. Yep, sure.
What software are you on right now?
So this is Figma. It's the Figma.com. It's the UI design tool. So let's say Figma.
Is it free?
I believe so. So it's not completely free. So it has some paid features. And to be honest, I have the paid one here, but the free one actually lets you keep 3 design files where you can, like, so this is how the design file looks like. So you can actually keep multiple designs in a single design file, right?
Cool. I
Okay.
will dig into that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so it should be Figma.com. Yep, it's the Figma.com. By the way, I believe Adobe has purchased this product recently, so now it's soon gonna probably change the name to Adobe Figma or something. Anyways, so
Gotcha.
let's keep working on this layout. So now I need to place these social icons on the right from this logo in the navigation. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find their common parent, which is the header container, and I'm going to set it to be the display of flex, right? So we need to find the header container. I'm going to say display flex here. Let's save this. And now we have the social icons going on the right from the logo and the navigation. How do I add all the available space to be between the logo and the navigation and the social icons? I can utilize the what's called the, hold on a second. So the justify content CSS property is the space between value. So I'm going to add justify content with the value of space between. So once I save this, you will now see that the social icons are pinned to the right edge of the container, while the logo and the navigation are pinned to the left edge of the container. So if I inspect this, right, you will see that that all the available space that inside of the container was added between those items. And now I want to make sure everything is aligned vertically perfect, right? So I want to say align items standard 2. If I save this, now as you can see, the social icons are perfectly aligned vertically. So the last task with aligning stuff here that we need to do is to align the navigation horizontally. So at this point, we have the unordered list where every link goes after another one, which is the default behavior of the unordered list. So to do that, I'm going to go and add some class to the UL here. Now, actually, I'm going to add a class to the navigation. So I will say it's going to have the class of top navigation, right? So, and then I'm going to take this class, create a new selector in the CSS file, and I'm going to say that the top navigation, and then I will select the unordered list. So I will say UL, and then I will say that it's going to be of display flex. Let's save this. And now we have all the navigation items aligned horizontally. And now I need to align the logo and this navigation horizontally too. Let's find their common parent. So the common parent for the navigation and the logo is the logo navigation. So I'm going to take this class, create a new selector. If we haven't yet, looks like we haven't. So, and I'm going to say that the logo navigation is going to be of display flex 2. Okay, let's save this and let's see what we got. So we now have the logo, then the navigation, and then we have the social icons on the right part. So looks like we are pretty close. Let's style the unordered list first. So what I want to do is I want to remove this disk going before each element in the list, right? So I'm going to say that it will have the list style type of none. Then I want to add the distance between these elements, and we have the gap property that will help us do that. So I'm going to say, actually, let's first fix the color. So I want to say that the color, and actually, since those are the links, we need to switch the color for the links. So I'm going to copy this selector and say that every anchor element in the unordered list that is inside, that is a direct child of the top navigation class, I will set the color to be white so that we can see those links. Okay, so now the color of those links is white. Let's add distance. So the distance should be something like 10, let's say 16 pixels. So I will say gap 16 pixels. Let's save this. Now we have distance between the links. And the last thing I want to do here is I want to add the distance between the logo and the navigation. So if we go back here to the layout of the header, we can see that the logo has some styles too. It's a container with some grayish background and the capitalized logo word inside, right? So let's go style the logo first. So I'm going to say that the class of logo, let's add this class here. So we'll say period logo to create the class selector. So it's going to have the padding of, let's say it will have like 10 pixels on top, and let's say like 16 pixels on left and right. Okay, so then I want to set the background for this container to be, let's use the gray color. Let's see what happens. Okay, good enough. Then I want the text to be, every letter should be capitalized, right? So I will say text transform, and then I will say uppercase. Save this. So now it's all the letters are capitalized. And now I want to add distance between the logo and the navigation. And I want to align the navigation vertically within the logo and navigation container. So in the logo and navigation container, let's say align items center. Let's save this. So now the navigation is aligned perfectly, is aligned vertically perfect. And I want to set the gap of, let's say 30 pixels here. And now it looks like we are pretty much done. So the last thing we need to work on is so actually the styles for the links. As you can see, the link here, it doesn't have it's not underlined, it has the border in the bottom of the link, right? So we can actually make this styles too. So let's do that. So I'm gonna select every link, and I'm gonna say that the text decoration is going to be none to hide this underline style. Then I want to say that the border bottom should be 2 pixels solid of the red color, which is the A5252. Let's save this. So now we have this border, but I want this border to appear only once the link is hovered, right? So I'm going to take this selector and I'm going to utilize what's called the pseudo class of hover. And then once the link is hovered, I'm going to move this border bottom rule here, and I will change the color to be the same red color the border has. Okay, let's save this. So now once I hover the link, as you can see, it gets this border and it changes the color to be red. Cool. So let's take a look at the other resolutions. So we now need to make it responsive for the tablet, and we need to make it responsive for the mobile view. And as you can see, for the tablet and for the mobile view, we don't have the navigation itself. We just have this trigram. So let's actually go and add this trigram. And I actually want to add it as just a button. So I'm going to update the UI here just a bit. So in the top navigation, I'm going to add let's say the button that goes before the unordered list. So I'm going to say the button. And this button is going to have the trigram inside. So there is a pretty easy way to add the trigram. So first of all, you can actually utilize the font awesome. So we can search for actually, let's go to the icons and let's search for the bars icon. So as you can see, the trigram is represented by the bars icon in font awesome. So actually, I could just say that I want to have the I here inside of class that will say FA bars. So if I save this, it should already add this icon for me. As you can see, I have now this bars icon here. So then I can remove all the default styles for the button. So I'm gonna add the class to it. So I will say the button of class Trigram here. Then I will copy this class. I'm gonna create a new selector in the styles.css, and don't forget the period for the class selector. And then I will say that it has the so it's gonna have the appearance none. Then I will remove the background. So I will say background transparent. Then I will remove the outline, should be none. Okay, so then I will remove the border. Okay, so and then I'm gonna set the color to be white, actually. Let's check this out. So now we have this trigram icon here. And as you can see, it doesn't have any more default background, and it has the white color. So since this icon is inside of the top navigation class, we now need to make the nav of class top navigation to be display flex 2 to let the trigram be stacked horizontally with the actual navigation, right? So let's go find the top navigation here. It's the logo navigation, so we need to say period top navigation, and it's going to be of display flex, right? So then it's going to be it's going to have the align items to be centered so that they are centered vertically. Okay, looks good. And then we need to set the gap of, let's add the gap of 20, let's do 30 pixels. Okay, so now we have this trigram in the same line with the navigation, but here is the thing. So if you take a look at the mockup, we actually want this trigram to show up only when the width of the viewport is less than 1023 pixels. So when the tablet kind of styles should be applied to the layout we have, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back here to the code, and I'm going to make the top navigation button trigram to be disabled by default. So, and to do that, I'm going to say display none. Let's save this. And as you can see, we now don't have this trigram here, but I will go and create a media query. So I will say media, and then I will use the condition of, let's say, max width of 1023 pixels. And if this condition is true, I'm going to add the trigram selector here, saying that the trigram is expected to have the display of block. So I will say display block. And let's see what happens now. So now, if I start shrinking the viewport, at some point, we will see that this trigram appears. So it appears when the screen width gets to the value of 1023 pixels. So we are moving 1023 should appear in a second. Boom. Okay, hope it makes sense. At the same time, I want the navigation to be hidden at the same mobile resolution, right? So what it was, I mean, we don't have the navigation for the, yep, we don't have it. So, okay, so then I'm going to select the navigation, which is the top navigation unordered list. So I'm going to grab this list. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to say display none. Okay, let's save this. Boom. So now for the screen width below the 1023 pixels, we don't see the navigation anymore, but we have the trigram. But after 1023 pixels, so when we get to the list desktop resolution, we start seeing the navigation, and we don't see the trigram anymore, right? So there is something that needs to be updated for the styles, because as you can see, we now have the logo, then the trigram, and then the social icons. But on the mockup here, we can see that we have the trigram pinned to the right side, and then we have the social icons in the middle. And we can utilize what's called the order property in Flexbox, which actually defines the order of the elements. So what I can do here is I can actually say, so let me think about this. We actually have this trigram inside of the logo and navigation container. And that probably might not be the right move because we can't now change the place for the social icons in the trigram. But let's go refactor the HTML just a bit. So I'm going to take this button outside of this navigation, and I'm going to put it on the same level with the logo navigation and the social icons. So the trigram will go after the logo and navigation. Let's put it right here. Okay, let's save this. So as you can see, the trigram is now here. So it's not going to show up for the desktop resolution, but now we can change the order of the trigram and of the social icons for the tablet views. So I'm going to go back here and I will say that the trigram is going to have the order of 3, and while the social icons will have the order of 2. Let's see what happens. Boom, and they have just switched their places. So the social icons now show up as the second child of the Flex container, while the trigram shows up as the last child. And for the trigram, by the way, I want to increase the font just a bit. I want to say font size is going to be 24 pixels. Okay, cool. So it looks like we have everything done for the desktop and for the mobile and for the tablet resolution. So the last thing we need to do is to hide the social icons for the mobile devices. And that's pretty easy. So we can create another media query here saying that the max width is expected to be 767 pixels. And then if this condition is true, we are going to say that the social icons should not show up, which means that the display CSS property should have the value of none. Let's save this. Boom. We now have the social icons for the mobile device. Then I increase the width of the viewport. We get to the tablet device resolution, so the social icons show up. And then I keep increasing the width, and we get to the desktop resolution, and we have all 3 elements showing up. Okay, any questions? Does this make sense?
Yes, sir. It makes complete sense to me.
Cool. So again, today we are going to make this trigram button be an interactive so that once we click it, it shows us the top navigation. And once we click it again, it hides the navigation. And I'm going to make the navigation to hover the whole screen or the viewport area. Yeah, and it will be moved by the height of the header to the bottom, right? So that it doesn't overlap the header. And I have already built this layout for the mobile devices. So let's do the same for the tablets. So it should be 768 pixels. So I'm going to put it like this. Then I'm going to duplicate this navigation, put it inside of this frame, and then I'm going to duplicate this frame, put it inside of this, and just stretch it to the viewport width. Yeah, I believe this is what we are going to make, and it's quite enough to demonstrate you the concept. Yep, I believe it looks good. Okay, so, and first of all, I will go back to the IDE that is currently in the last state that I have finished in the previous video. You can find in the in-class videos, which is the header part 1. So, and if I run this in the live server, we will see this header, but something doesn't look exactly the same, right? So we have the height of this header of 80 pixels, while this header is obviously has the height that is obviously larger than 80 pixels. So if I inspect this and if I hover the header, we will see that it takes 100 pixels of height. So I will go to the styles.css file, and the first thing I want to do is I want to update the height of the header, saying that so it has the, let's find the styles for the header. So that's the top header, right? It's the header of class top header, and I'm gonna say that it has the padding of 0 on the top and bottom, and then 30 pixels on left and right. So let's update this. Boom, now we don't have the padding on the top and the bottom of the header. And now I'm gonna set that the height of the header should be 80 pixels. Boom, now the header looks much better and follows the mockup. And as you can see, the content inside of the header is now aligned perfectly in the middle vertically. And it's because I have made the top header to be of display flex, and I have utilized the align items property with the value of center that actually makes the content of the header to be pushed to the center of the top header element. Okay, hopefully this makes sense. So let's now do some updates for the HTML. So yesterday we figured out that the button of class Trigram is not actually in the proper place. So if I start shrinking this viewport, we will see that we have the navigation not being displayed for the tablet, but we have this Trigram icon here. And then if I keep shrinking it, so at some point our social icons disappear. And this is kind of something that proves that we are now in the mobile device, right? So it looks exactly like the mockup. So this is the mobile view. And if we check it out, so here is the mobile view. Then this is the tablet view. So the logo, the social icons, and the trigram. Let's check out the mockup, the logo, the social icons, and the trigram. And the last one is the desktop view. So if I keep expanding the viewport size, so now it has the logo, the navigation, and the social icons here on the right. Cool. Okay, so let's think about it. What do we want to do? So we want this trigram to be active, so that once we click it, it shows some navigation here. Once we click it again, it hides the navigation. And to do that, I'm going to update the value of this button to the value of the attribute of array expanded. So let's actually add this attribute first. So I'm gonna say that the area expanded equals to false by default. So by default, our top navigation is not being displayed, it's hidden, right? So I will say false. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to select this button by the value of this attribute, and then I want to select this navigation here. And the actual kind of not a problem, but something we can actually meet here is that we are going to be use what's called the general sibling combinator. So, and let's actually go find the documentation for this. So I'm gonna say general sibling combinator. And I will add the MDN in the end. So, so this is, it's called the subsequent sibling combinator, sorry for that. So what it actually does is that it finds or selects the element of image, and then it will find the neighbor of paragraph and add the class, add some styles to it. So if we check out the example here, so for example here, right? So we have the HTML where we have the paragraph, and then we have a span, and they are on the same level. So the span is not the child of the paragraph. The span is a neighbor of the paragraph. And now this has selected the paragraph, and in case there is a neighbor of span, it will add the color of red to this span. So here's how it works. It says code, here is some code, right? And then it selects this span because this span is the neighbor of P, and adds the styles of red here. It doesn't select this span, right? Oh, it actually should select this span. Yeah, and it does select this span, but it won't select this span because this span is outside of the article tag, so it's not the neighbor of the paragraph. And there is something really important, is that it will select only the span that goes after the paragraph. So this, if we had added some class here to this paragraph, for example, to this paragraph, sorry, it will not style this span anymore because this span goes before this paragraph. But it's pretty important that the element that we are considering to be a sibling that should be styled goes after the actual element in our HTML. So for example, we have the button of class Trigram here, and then we have this navigation that is inside of the logo navigation class, right? And if we try to select this navigation through this button element, it will not actually find it. So let's actually go and test it. So I'm gonna open my style CSS, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that, so we have the top navigation display none here. Anyways, let's just keep adding style. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna select the element by the attribute of array expanded. So I'm gonna say array expanded, right? Then equals, and I want to set the value of false, actually of true. Actually, let's think about this. Let's say false, yeah, first. And then I will use this tilde symbol, and then I want to select the neighbor of this element, which is the div of class logo navigation, right? And then I will select the top navigation class. Okay, so let's go back to our CSS styles. So if I say dot logo navigation, and then I say dot top navigation, and I'm gonna say display of none. Let's check if it works, because I'm not actually sure. I'm gonna comment out this rule for now. Let's open the document and let's see. And it actually didn't work. So what we were expecting to happen is that this navigation does not show up. So let's actually go and inspect this again. So we have this logo navigation, we have this button. Oh, and exactly this is the case. So why didn't it actually work? Because this logo navigation goes before the button we have selected first. So this selects the button, and this selects the nav element that we are supposed to hide. But if we go to the index.html, and if we replace this button to be before the actual top navigation, logo navigation, sorry, somewhere right here. So let's save this. So now it hides this navigation because now it was able to find the neighbor of the button that has the class of logo navigation. Does this make sense? Any questions about this? Let me close my window, please. So again, I will just redo this again. So if I put the button back to the where it was, so it was going after the logo navigation class, and save this, we will see that the navigation is being displayed. It's because again, so I am trying to select this element through this button, because this element of logo navigation is the neighbor of the button. But since the button goes after this logo navigation element, it cannot find it as the sibling. So what I need to do is I need to move this button to go before this logo navigation element. And now the sibling combinator was able to find this logo navigation element and remove it from, set it the display of none. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually, I need to figure out if it all works as expected. So actually it works. So now we can add styles for the actual nav element. So I'm gonna do my style CSS, and the nav element is going to have the absolute positioning, right, with the top value of the height of the header, because it's gonna be pinned to the edges of the viewport. So I'm gonna say that if the array expanded, then the top navigation. So, and I'm gonna switch the value to be true here. So once the array expanded is true, it means that the button, the trigram button, was clicked and it actually has expanded. So the top navigation is expected to show up. But what are the styles for this top navigation? I'm gonna say that it's gonna be of position absolute. Then I will say that it's gonna have the top value of 80 pixels. Then it's gonna have the left 0, then right 0. Does it make sense what these properties actually do of left 0, right 0, and the bottom 0? So it actually pins this element to the edges of the viewport. So saying bottom 0, we are saying that this element that we have selected is expected to be pinned to the bottom edge. Saying right 0, we are saying that it is expected to be pinned to the right edge. So the left and accordingly, and the top of 80 pixels is because I want to have this distance of 80 pixels of the height of the header before the actual navigation starts. So it will cover this array here. Okay, so then we will set the background color to be of 353535. Let's save this. And let's actually go to our index.html and switch this value to be true so that we can see the updates. Let's save this. Boom. So here's how it looks like. So now I want this container here to be of display flex because I want to put this navigation to the middle or I want to center it vertically and horizontally, right? So I'm going to say that it's going to be of display flex, right? Then it's going to have the align items center and the justify content center. Okay, let's save this. Boom. And we have those links perfectly in the middle. So if I start shrinking the viewport, keep shrinking the viewport, we will still see these links, right? And something I want also to update here is probably for the mobile navigation, we want this to be a vertical stack of elements, right? So let me actually make it a vertical stack. Yep. And probably I want to increase the distance between these elements. Where is it? Right here. So I want to say that the distance is going to be 40. Yeah, so this looks better for the mobile device. So let's actually go and update these too. So let's first figure out what exactly is the container that holds these elements, and it's the unordered list. So I'm going to take this. We will do this for the another media query. So it should live in the media query of the mobile device. Okay, it's fine for now. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to make the click by this trigram icon here to actually update the value of the array expanded attribute to be true or false. And what I need to do is I want to actually open my scripts.js. And the first thing I want to do is I want to select the button. So I will say const, and I will say trigram btn equals, and I'm going to utilize the document method of query selector. So query selector selects some element by the class or by the ID. And in our case, we have this class of trigram, and it's the only element of class trigram in our page. So we can actually just select it by the class of trigram. I'm going to use trigram here. Okay, so let's do the console.log of the element just to make sure we are catching this element. So I will say trigram btn. Let's open the console and let's actually see what we have here. Oh, I never connected the JavaScript file, right? So now I need to go to the HTML file, add the script tag in the head section, script. And then for the src attribute, I'm going to set the value of /JS and then scripts.js. Okay, looks good. So now we have this null value here because it's not actually selecting the element. And that happens because this JavaScript loads before the HTML is loaded. So we need to add the attribute of defer here to make it load after. So now, as you can see, we have this button selected by the JavaScript in our console because we are logging the value of the button we are selecting with JavaScript. Okay, cool. So now what I want to do is I want to add the event listener, and the event listener is actually makes the browser listen for some event. And the event we're going to be listening for is the click event by this trigram icon here. So I'm going to say trigram btn.add event listener. It's a method that adds the event listener. So then again, if you are not in JavaScript yet, and you are not in the API.js module, it's totally fine to not understand how this works, but just keep watching and or get back to watching this video once you pass the API.js, and it will all make perfect sense by the time. So we are using the add event listener, and the event type is going to be the click event. And then for the callback function here, so the callback function means what is exactly going to happen once this click event is fired. So and what's going to happen, we are going to say trigram. So we're going to say if, and then trigram btn dot get attribute of area expanded. So with this line, we are checking if the value of the current value of this attribute equals to something. So we'll say if area expanded equals true. Actually, let's catch false. If it equals to false, what we are going to do is we are going to switch it to be true. So we will say then trigram btn.set attribute, and then it's going to be the attribute of the area expanded, and the value is going to be false, actually true, sorry, true. Otherwise, so I will say else, and then else. We are going to do the same thing, and it's going to be the false. Okay, let's see if it actually works. So I want to open the elements here, and I want to take a look at this value of true here. So once I click this element, it should switch the value, and boom, it does switch in the value. So so now it's false, and we don't see the navigation. Now it's true, and we see the navigation, right? So technically it works. But here's an issue. So if I click the icon itself, oh, it still fires. So why does it work this time? It didn't work yesterday. Anyways, so we are selecting the query. So it actually works. Okay, let me also log. I will say console.log. Oh, it looks like I didn't move the changes I made yesterday for the button itself to the initial state. Anyways, so let's log the Trigram button to make sure that when we click this element, we are getting the button element. So every time I click the button, I want to see what the Trigram BTN is. Okay, actually, I'm going to pass the event here, and then I'm going to say console.log event.target. Let's see what I see in the console. Once I click it, it's the I class, but for some reason it still catches the event for the trigram. That's interesting. Okay, it works and it works. So technically, what my concern yesterday is that if I click somewhere beneath this icon here, it will catch that we have clicked the button. But if I click the icon itself, it catches that we have clicked the icon, which is the nested child of the element here inside of the button, which I was concerned about. So yeah, so what I did actually is since I was going to utilize the after pseudo class, but the after pseudo class does not kind of consider HTML to be added to this element. So that's why I had to remove this I element as the icon and add the after class and use the HTML code for the trigram. But now it works and it works. So technically we are all good. So we can see this navigation. The last thing I want to update is I want to actually make it look good for the mobile devices. And as you remember, for the mobile devices, we have this unordered list stacked vertically, and we have some more distance between the elements so that it's comfortable for the user to make a tap on the item of the unordered list. So let's go to the styles.css here. And what I want to do is I want inside of this media query of 767 pixel max, which is the mobile device media query, I want to actually grab the same element here, and I want to add one more selector of an ordered list here in the end. And then I will remove all these styles, and I will say that the flex direction for this element is supposed to be a column. Let's save this. Now we have them in the column, and I want to set the gap of 40 pixels. Boom. So now we have more distance between those elements, and probably I also want to make font size to be, let's say, 26 pixels. Okay, now we have it look a bit better for the mobile devices. So when it gets to the size of the tablet, it actually switches the links to be stacked horizontally, decreases the font and decreases the distance between those elements. And then when we get to the desktop viewport, it actually goes back to the desktop. But we might have another issue. Yeah, here's the issue. If we have been in the tablet viewport and we have clicked this trigram icon, it has switched the width sorry, the value of the array expanded attribute to be true, and it never updated it if we have kind of enlarged the viewport and got to the desktop view. So then when we start shrinking the viewport again, this navigation is still showing up, which is kind of not really good user experience, I believe, because the user will not understand why do they see this if they just play around with the width of their browser, right? So what we actually want to do is we want to listen for another event, and probably it's going to be the resize event, and we will get the size of the window, and in case it is greater than 767 pixels, actually 1023 pixels, then we are going to update the value of the trigram button array expanded attribute back to false. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to script.js, and I'm going to say, let's say window dot add event listener, and this is going to be the resize event listener, and the callback will actually going to do the following. So let me actually console.log, and I will say it's going to be the window dot inner width. Let's see what we have there. So we have the console open. So now if I start resizing, so it actually logs me the value of the current inner size of the window. So I will say if the window dot inner width is greater than, and oh, sorry, it should be the, so when we are getting the value, we are getting it actually as a string, or do we? It's a number. Actually, it's a number, so we can actually check the, compare it to another number. So we will say 767. Then we are going to set the trigram btn dot set attribute, and I will just copy this array expanded to be false. Okay, this should work. So I will comment out this log here. So now let's start expanding the viewport. Boom. So every time we expand the viewport width, it's gonna update the value of the array expanded to be false for this button. So it will hide the navigation. So if we have opened it, and now if we just expand it just a bit, so it will be closed now, even if we are in the mobile navigation. So it will stay opened while we are inside of the tablet resolution, but then, oh, actually, I was saying it should be 1023 pixels. Yeah, so while we are inside in the screen width of the tablet, it will stay open. But once we kind of make it larger than the tablet, so once we get to the desktop screen width, it's gonna get hidden until we expand it one more time. Does this make sense? Any questions so far? So it looks like we are pretty much done with what we are with what I was expecting to have been explained in today's session. Any questions?
I'm just curious. The JavaScript that you did, I believe I'm not the only one here that's not in JavaScript yet. But the type of things you're going over there, will those are the things we'll be learning in the JavaScript module?
Yep, exactly. So this is what you are going to be learning when you get to the third JavaScript module, which is about the DOM manipulation. So you will learn all that, so don't worry about this. You will understand this. And by the way, there is a better approach to handle this code. So we can use what's called the ternary operator. So I will say const value to set, and I will utilize what's called the ternary operator. So I will check if this is true, then it will return the true. Otherwise, it will return the false, which will save me a couple lines of JavaScript. So now I can cut this single statement. I can remove this if statement. I can place it here and replace this with the value to set. Yep, so still should work. Does it? It does work. Oh, and by default, I need to change the value of array expanded for the button to be false. So, and JavaScript is pretty readable. So const means that I am declaring a variable. So, or the constant.
Constant,
So
yeah.
it's not something I can't overwrite, right? So the constant are also called read-only variables. So saying const, I'm saying, hey, let's create a variable. Then I give this variable a name because I want to reuse this variable in future, right? So like I do it here or here. So I'm giving it a name so that the name is getting assigned to the memory unit that holds the value of the variable, right? So then this document is an object. So technically, when you inspect the HTML of your website, when you utilize the Chrome developer tools, you are seeing the document. So this is the document built from this object of document. So that's technically it. And it has some methods. So the query selector method allows us to select any element from this tree by the selector name. And saying the period here, I'm saying by the class of Trigram. For example, if I had, let's say, the top header here with the ID of header. So let's say I'm using ID of header. Actually, let's say top header. So now what I can do, I can utilize a different method to select this header. I can say const header. So I'm declaring a different variable or a different read-only variable or a constant, right? And then I will say document, and I can utilize a different method that is get element by ID. And now I can just type the ID of top header. Actually, was it top header? Was it? Yeah, top header. Okay, top header. And now if I console.log, so the console.log is the statement that allows us to log the values of the variables. Let me just comment this out for now. So if I say console.log, it says, hey, log the value of something to the console, right? So, and now I will log the header, so the value of the variable header. So let's see what it does. If I go switch to console here, it logs me the header of ID top header. So I have selected this part, just a part of the document object, right? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like you said, it's readable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's readable. Yeah. So then, if we go to the next value here, so previously we had the if-else statement here. The if-else statement in JavaScript is just the kind of the construction that says, if something is true, do this, else do this. So for example, if, I don't know, 10 is greater than 5, which is false, right? 10 is not greater than 5. Then I will say, and the code block means that I am wrapping the code that is expected to happen if this is true. So then I will say console.log, this is true, right? Otherwise, which is the else keyword and another code block. Otherwise, console.log, this is not true. So again, it's pretty readable. If this is true, then put this message into the console. Otherwise, put this message into the console. So if I save this, you will see it says this is true. Oh, because it's true. Yeah, 10 is greater than 5. But if I switch it to be less, right, and save the file, now it says this is not true because 10 is not less than 5, right? Does this make sense? This construction.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, but I have switched it to some kind of modern way of writing simple if-else statements. It's called the ternary operator. Technically, it sounds and is being read pretty much the same way. So it says, set the value of the constant with the name value to set to true if this is true. So, and this is true means that the trigram attribute of array expanded equals to false. So if this is true, set it to true, otherwise set it to false. So it's kind of a syntax replacing the simple if-else statements, but does the same thing. And then the get attribute will return me the attribute value that I want to be returned, right? So I'm setting the attribute of array expanded that I want to be returned by the get attribute method, and it returns the value. And the value, as you remember, is either true or false, and it is a string value. So that's kind of something important to remember, that the attributes values are always string values. So, and then it says, where was I? Right here. So get the value of attribute array expanded. If it is equal to false, then return the string value of true to this variable value to set. And then I'm utilizing the set attribute method that actually sets the value to a specific attribute and in this case, I'm setting the value to set value to the array expanded, which is going to have the value of false or true, depending on what current value it has. Does this make a bit more sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm adding another event listener of type resize, which means that every time the browser is being resized, the window of the browser, it will listen to this event, right? So, and we can set some action like we do it here that will be fired every time the window is resized. So even if we increase it by just a single pixel, it will fire this event here inside of this parenthesis. So, and I have said that it should track the width of the window object here. So the window is actually the tab in the browser. So the window object represents the tab, right? And once its width is changed, I'm comparing its inner width, which is the width of the viewport. If it's greater than 1023, then I am utilizing the set attribute method again to update the value of the array expanded attribute to become false, because I want to hide the opened navigation. So if I click it, right? So let me actually remove all this. Let's say this. Let me click this. So now we have this navigation shown up, which means that the button has the array expanded value of true, right? But when the width of this window becomes more than 1024 pixels, I am removing, so I'm updating the value of array expanded to be false, because I don't want this navigation to show up here when I go back to decrease the width of the viewport, right? So, and this is what this does when it listens to the resize event. So the resize, so when we are shrinking, expanding or collapsing the width of the viewport, we are actually firing the resize event. Hopefully this makes a bit more sense.
Oh yeah, it does.
Okay, so let's briefly walk through we are going to style today, and it's this section that I will call the hero section that again has some text block with buttons and links on the left and some random shapes on the right. Then for the tablet, it's going to switch to have the text block on the top while the random shapes are going to be in the bottom. And for the mobile device view, we are going to update the layout inside of the text block. So we will place the text to be aligned to the center, to have the text aligned center. And then we are going to update this shapes section to hide the rectangle and to align the circles from this section to be stacked horizontally. Okay, well, let's first again detect. So we are going to use the Flexbox, and let's detect how many Flexbox containers do we have here. So obviously this is a Flex container that holds two sections on the left and on the right. Then this text block is a Flex container that has text on the top, or probably it has the heading and then the description, and then another container that holds the button and the link. So yeah, let's actually do it this way. So then for the tablet, so yeah, I believe the having just 3 Flexbox containers here will make will be enough for us to style this section. So let's go and actually create some HTML. So I will call this section a hero section, and it's going to have the class of hero. Then inside the hero is going to be yeah, I believe the hero is not a good name here, or probably I will just do some other wrapping. So I will say that we have the section first, and this section is actually will be pinned to the edges of the screen. So then it will hold some content of the hero inside. I need this because I need this background to be pinned to the edges, while the content will have the max width of 100 or 1100 pixels or something. So let's go back here. we will have this section. Then I will move the hero class inside, and I will rename this to have the first class of content, which will be the common class for all the other sections, so that we have the content in every section we will be creating after having the same dimensions, at least at the same width. Okay, and then it will have the hero styles, so styles specifically for the hero section. Okay, inside of this container, we will have two sections. So, and the first one is going to be the text. Actually, let's say hero description. And the second class is going to be hero shapes. Oops, hero shapes. Okay, so then inside of the hero description, we will have the heading 1, right? Which stands for the, so what does it say? It says some amazing title. Let's actually copy this content and let's move it to the head inside of the heading 1. So then we will have a paragraph of text, and this text will have this random text value, right? So I'm going to put it inside of the paragraph, save it, and then let's go back here. And then after the heading 1 in the paragraph, we have agreed that we will have another flex container that will hold the button and this link, right? So I'm going to go back here, and then I will create another container of hero, let's say navigation. And inside of this hero navigation, it will have the, so we can either use the button or the link for the button. So I will use the anchor tag at this point, and I will say that it's going to have the class of, and it's going to have the class of BTN, and then the red for the background. Okay, and it will say, so what does it say? It says send, and then another link saying some link to a page. Okay, looks good. So let's say this says send, and then the second link, which will say some link to the page. Okay, so looks like the left part is actually created. So let's now create the right part, and we will have two types of shapes here. The first one is going to be the circle. The second one is going to be the square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create all those 4 shapes. So we have the content hero, then the hero description goes here, and then the hero shapes, right? So oh, I'm sorry. It looks like I have put this container in the wrong place. So it should be here. Yep. So then in the hero shapes, I'm going to create the div of class circle. And then I will add some secondary class, which will actually change the size of the circle, right? So because we have the small one, the medium one, and the large one. So let's say that the first one is going to be large circle, then large. So the next one is going to be medium. Then we will add the small one. And then we will have the rectangle. Okay, this one is going to be the rectangles class. Okay, this is pretty much it for this section. So I believe we don't need any more HTML. If we need some, we will add some more after, a bit later. So let's now actually switch to styles. So I want to create a separate CSS style here, and I will create a new file with the name of hero.css, and then I will go to index.html and connect the hero.css file after the style CSS file. So I'm going to create another link here. I will say it's going to have the CSS and then the hero CSS. Okay, looks good. So let's think about this. So first of all, let's create the common styles inside of the styles.css file. And to do that, I'm going to add the selector for the section. So I want to say that the section, actually, let's think about this. So we have this section, right, that has the background color. So probably I want to move the class that actually says the background color for the section into some common class we can reuse, because if we take a look at the layout, some of the sections have the dark background and some of them have the white background. So I would kind of do the following. I would consider this section to have the white background by default, and the dark background will be added with a new class that we can actually set for the section. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm gonna declare the section dark class here, and I will say that it has the background of 353535. This should work. So now if we go to the HTML and scroll down to my section here, I will say that this section has the class of section dark. Looks good. So then we already have this section with the dark background, right? So which kind of follows the layout. So then what another update I want to make here is I actually want to set the BTN class, the red class, and we already have the styles for the link. Okay, so looks like we will need to go to style CSS again, and then I will say .red here, and then the background color for the red is going to be DA525252. Okay, let's save this. Let's see if it changes something. So we now have the red background for the button. Actually, that's basically it. So, the last thing I want to set is the content common class that is going to be of display flex. Then it's going to have the flex direction of column. Then I want it to be centered. So I want to say the max width for the content class to be 1964 pixels here. So then I want to say that it's going to have the margin value of 0 and odd, so that it's centered horizontally. And for the max width, I actually want to use the 1024 pixels, but then I want to set the padding of 0 and then 30 pixels on sides. Yeah, this will work. So let's see what we have here. We now have this container that has the class content centered horizontally within its parent, right? So, and it has the flex direction of the column. So the elements are not following this flex direction just yet because we have just a single section inside of the HTML. So let's actually go and style the circles and the rectangle. So I'm gonna double click the large circle in the Figma file to see what width and height it has. It has 111 by 111 width and height, right? So we can go and set this, and we will do this inside of the hero CSS. So I will say that the circle itself first has the, let's actually say that it has any width and any height. So what I want to add is the common rule of the border radius, which is going to be 50%, right? Then I want to set the background color, to have the value of 494949. So let's do this 494949. It requires the hash symbol in the beginning. Okay, so then I want to style the large circle with the large class, and it's going to have the width of 111 pixels, and then it's 111, right? So then it's going to have the height of 111 pixels too. So then the medium one is going to have the width of, so it's 62 by 62. They actually should be more kind of more equal. So let's say it's going to be 110, and this one is going to have the width of 60 pixels and the height of 60 pixels, right? Looks good. And then the small one has the width of 30 by 30. Yeah, so let's do it 30 by 30. Feel free to interrupt me and ask questions if you have any while I'm typing all this. Okay, so we have 3 circles now. So we are missing the rectangle. So let's go and check out the dimensions of the rectangle. It's 209 by 280. So I will do 210 by 280. So let's create the rectangle class. It is going to be have the width of 210 pixels, right? So and then the height of 280 pixels. Okay, looks good. So we have the shapes it didn't. Oh, it's because I never set the background color, which is the same to the one that our circles have. Let's put this here. Cool. So we have all the shapes created. We have all the content set. Let's now start styling the layout. So if we check this layout, we can see that we have this text being aligned to the center vertically, right? So then we also have some padding here and here. But anyways, let's first put these sections to be stacked horizontally. And to do that, I'm just going to take their common parent, right? So the common parent for both the shapes and the hero description is the hero class. So I can take this selector and say that it's going to be of display flex. So hero is going to be of display flex. So let's check out the layout. So, and it didn't work for some reason. Let's figure out why. It's hero display flex should actually work, but it didn't. What happened here? Let's inspect it and see what happens. So the section dark content hero. Oh yeah. So it's, by the way, I mean, it's actually already of display flex because we have set the display flex for the content, but we have also said that the flex direction for the content is a column by default. And that's actually why I created this hero class. We can override the values of the content for the specific section if we want to, but by default, this content section will have this style. So let's go back to our hero here, and let's say that the flex direction is going to be row, and row, and we don't need the display flex row, the display flex value anymore here, so we can remove this. Okay, so now we have the shapes on the right, and we have the description on the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the width of this left part and the width of this right part to be 100%, so that all the available space within this section is divided equally, and we are sure that the left part has the same width with the right part. So I'm going to go grab those classes, and they are the hero description and the hero shapes. Let's go back to styles, to hero CSS. So now let's say the hero description and the hero shapes should have the width of 100%. Okay, looks good. So let's go back here. So now we are pretty sure that those sections have the same width. Does it make sense so far? Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, cool. Yep, thanks. Okay, so then I want to, for the hero description, I want to set that it's going to be a flex container that will have the vertical alignment of center, which is the align items property, right? So I will set this selector here, and then I'm going to say align, oops, for some reason I had the caps lock activated, align items center. Let's save this. Let's check this out. So did that work? It didn't. Let's figure out why. The hero description, did I use the proper selector? Hero description, oh, it's because I forgot the display flex. So it should work. So now we have the text here in the middle, but the flex direction is still row, so we need to change it to the column. So let's say that the flex direction will be the column. Okay, so then what I also want to do, I want to style the heading 1. So in the hero description, or actually the hero, and then I will use the child of heading 1, and I will say that it's going to be the child of any nested level. I will say that oh, actually I can set the color to be white for the whole hero section. So I'll say color white. And it looks like I already have the hero selector, so there was no reason to create another one. I can just move this right here and remove the hero. Okay, let's save this. We have all the colors white. So then we have this heading 1. And for some reason, it's aligned to the center. I'm just curious why. So we have the hero description. Oh, since we have used the flex direction of column, we have technically switched the axis. So now the horizontal alignment is made with the align items property, while the vertical alignment will be made with the justify content. This is something important to remember. But anyways, so let's actually remove this align items, and yeah, we just can remove it because it has the flex start value by default. Okay, now it looks good. So now we need to make this last container to be of display flex so that we can control the alignment of the button and of the link. Okay. And for some reason, once I have removed the align items for the hero container, it's not aligning it to the center anymore. So let's inspect it. So we have the hero description. The hero description is expected to, so it has the flex. Yeah, so let's try the justify content to be set to the center, and it will center this text vertically. So let's move back here. Let's find the hero description, and let's say justify content center. Okay, this should look better. Yep. So now I want to set some gap between the heading one, between the text, and between the buttons. So I'm going to say that the gap is going to be, let's say, 20 pixels for now. But we have some distance between the heading, between the paragraph and the buttons now. And I want to make these buttons to be wrapped with the to be a flex container with two elements, the one on the left and the one on the right. So I'm gonna take this selector of hero navigation, right? So it's going to be the hero navigation. And then it's going to be of display flex with the gap, let's say 20 pixels too. Should work, and it works. So now we have those two elements in a flex container stacked horizontally. So now let's actually work on the positioning the random shapes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the absolute positioning of each shape within the container they are located in. And to do that, so as you remember, the absolute position happens only around the positioned element. So to absolutely position the rectangle around the hero shapes, I need to make the hero shapes to be relatively positioned. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add another class of shape here, and the shape will have the position of absolute. So it's the common rule for each of these shapes. Then I'm going to go to my index.html, and I will just say that it's going to have the shape class here, and I will add this shape class to each of those elements we have here. So then I need to make my hero shapes to have the position of relative so that these shapes can be absolutely positioned around the hero shapes, right? So I'm gonna go back here and I will say that the hero shape, actually shapes, is gonna have the position of relative. Cool. So if we go back here, we can see the rectangle only. So, but basically what happens here is that we have this rectangle and all the other shapes behind this rectangle. So the rectangle was the last element declared in the HTML. That's why we have all the shapes kind of, since they are all absolutely positioned, they are just they have created multiple layers, and the circles are technically behind this rectangle, if it makes sense. But we can now set the minimum height for the whole section so that since we have applied the absolute positioning, these elements were taken outside of the regular flow, which means that the main layout does not consider these elements in the HTML when rendering the page. So these elements became kind of above the page, if it makes sense. So what we can technically do here is we can take this hero shapes container, and we can just set the min height of, let's say, 600 pixels height. Pixels. Boom. So now we have this kind of section covering all the elements. And then we will be using the top, left, right, and bottom properties to actually place the elements within the layout. And we are getting the access to those values, to those CSS properties, once we actually change the positioning of the element to something that is not equal to static, which is the default value of the position property for any HTML element we create or any CSS element. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, I want to check out where is the circle located. Hold on a second, where is my layout? So I'm going to position this small circle, and it has like 135 from the bottom and 68 from the right. Okay, let's apply those styles. So for the small class, I will say that it has the right of, let's say 40 pixels, for example, and the bottom of 200 pixels. Let's see if it works. So we should see, okay, we can now see this circle here, but it's not in the right place, right? For some reason, it's being aligned not actually around the hero shapes. So position relative, then we have this shape rectangle, this small one, and it has, oh, it's because I never set the mean height for the hero shapes. I have set it in the inspector, but never moved it to the actual style. So let's say 600 pixels. Boom, now we have the small circle pretty much in the correct place we want it to be, right? So then I'm gonna check out the large circle, right? So then I'm gonna check out the distances. So it has like 70 from top, and let's say 136, 140 from the right. Okay, let's apply those styles. So the large one will have top 70 pixels, and then it's going to be right 140 pixels. Okay, we have positioned the large circle, right? So then I want to take care of the rectangle. So let's move to our Figma mockup again. So then I will hold the Option key or the Alt for Windows, and it will show me the distances with the elements around it. So we have 160 from the bottom and like 130 from the right. So let's do that. 160 from the bottom. This is a small rectangle. So it's going to be bottom 160 pixels, right? And then it had 130 from the right. Okay, so now we have this rectangle position, but it kind of overlaps the large circle. So probably what I want to do, I want to decrease this value from the bottom or from the bottom. Yeah, so I will say that it will have 120 pixels from the bottom. Let's see. Boom, looks pretty good. So, and then let's position the last medium one. It should be somewhere here. And I will say, so I believe there is something we need. Oh, actually, we don't have to update it. There is enough space to place the medium one. Yeah, let's go back here and let's put the medium one a bit beneath the rectangle, right? So it's gonna have the bottom of 70. Yeah, and then the left of, let's say 30. So we have bottom 70, left 30. So it's the medium one. Bottom. And then the left 30 pixels. Okay, let's see. So the bottom value should be changed here, right? So it should be a bit more beneath the rectangle following the mockup. So let's say it's going to be 50. Let's say then yeah, looks better. Even 40 will work a bit better. So then we need this to be, let's take a look at the mockup, to be more to the left, right? So I will probably kind of say 30 pixels, 30 pixels more. So I will add the 30 pixels to the left value, right? So it's going to be 60 now. Let's go back a bit better. Yeah, looks better. So then I want to move this small circle. So I want to change the bottom value to be, let's actually play around here in this. So I want the bottom to be 130 pixels probably, even less. So let's move it right here, and then let's increase the right value, which will position it somewhere here. So how does it look like in the, oh no, it should be, so right of 70 and bottom of 90 should actually work. Okay, the small one, right of 70 and bottom of 90. Let's check this out. So this looks pretty close. I mean, the shapes look pretty close to the mockup, right? So I'm not going to make it kind of pixel perfect, but anyways, we are super close. So playing around with those right, left, top, and bottom values actually will let you to make it as close to the mockup as possible. So again, then we need to update the styles for the heading 1, for the buttons, and for the text here, right? So let's check out what heading 1, what styles does the heading 1 have. So first of all, it has the font size of 48 pixels and it's bold, right? So let's go back to find our heading 1 inside of the hero. So I will say we already had the selector of heading 1 hero, I believe. Okay, never mind. So I will say hero, and then heading 1 is gonna have hero is gonna have the font size of 48 pixels, right? So then it's gonna be the font weight bold, right? And then I believe, no, it's not uppercase. Okay, so this looks good. What I also want to do is I probably want to update the font to be the system font or the Arial, at least for the whole document. So I'm gonna do this in the style CSS. I'm gonna say that the font size, actually I can select the body and I can say that the font family is gonna be Arial, right? Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at this. Yeah, this looks more close to the fonts I'm using here in the actual mockup. Okay, so then this text or the paragraph of text inside of the header hero description is also bold and it has the font size of 18 pixels. Let's go to our styles and let's say that the hero, then the paragraph is going to have the font size of 18 pixels, right? And then it has the font weight to be bold. Let's save this. Looks good. We probably want to update the line height. So let's check out the line height here. The line height is 28 pixels. So let's set the line height to 28 pixels. Feel good. So then, okay, so then we have the button and this link here, right? So, and the links are expected to have the brand color, and it's something I have never changed, right? So, but what we can actually do is we can say that so in the general styles here, we have the red class for that sets the background, right? So, but then I also went on to add the red font class that will have the, let's say that the color of the A5252. Okay, looks good. So now I can add this red font class to the link that says some link to a page, right? So I can say class, and this is going to be the red font, right, that we have just created. Cool. We have the first link having this red font. So now we need to style the button. And first of all, I want to set general styles for the button, right? So it's going to be the BTN selector, and it's going to be the common styles. So I will say .btn. And in the button, so if you take a look at the button in the mockup, it has the all capitalized letters on the button itself. Then it has some padding, right? So it has 10. So this is the text one, right? So, and the button has 10 on top and bottom, and it has 10 on left and right. But for some, so it shouldn't be this way. Okay, so let's actually check the distances here. So it says it has 15 pixels. The text inside of the button has 15 pixels on top and bottom and 76 pixels on left and right. Let's actually try to do this. So I'm going to say that the button will have the padding. So where is this? Where are my styles here? So it will have the padding. Let me think about this. Actually, I want to set the mean height and the mean width for the button, the height and the mean width, because we don't want this button to look like this when we have small text inside of the button. We want this button to be at least 200 pixels. So the mean width of the button is going to be 200 pixels, it will have the text placed in the center perfectly. So we are going to use another Flexbox for that. But then if the content here is increases, I mean, if we add some more characters here, I want the padding to be at least 20 pixels on the left and right and 10 pixels on top and bottom. Okay, cool. Yeah. So now I can do the following. I can say that the padding here is going to be 10 pixels on top and bottom and 20 pixels on sides. The min width is going to be 200 pixels. Then it's going to be of display flex. And we want to align the text inside of this button horizontally, which is the justify content property for, right? And then we will use the align items property with the value of center 2. That actually looks good. Also, I want to do some text transformation because as you can see, the letters inside of this button should be capitalized here, which means, so the font size is 18 pixels and the letters are capitalized, but I'm using the send with all lowercase letters here. But I want this to be handled dynamically, so I can actually apply the text transform property with the uppercase value. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at our button. Here we go, right? So we have the all lower uppercase letters. We have the button. So now I want to check out the border radius is 8. The color is white. No underlining, right? So, and bold font, I believe. Yep. Okay, so let's say the text decoration is none to remove the underlining. Then you want to say that the color is white. Then I want to say that the border radius is 8 pixels. And the font weight is bold. Boom, we are pretty close, right? So looks pretty much like the one in the mockup. The last thing I want to do is I want to align. So I want to increase the distance between this link and this link here. And the gap should be 30 pixels. So let's go back to the styles. Let's find the, oh, by the way, for some reason, our button has the background color of this brand color. I mean, I probably forgot that we have already said that before, but oh, it's because we are using the red class selector here. Okay, that's fine. So, okay, we have the common styles for the BTN, and then another style we set the background color with. So technically, we can add some more buttons with, and then apply some more styles here. So if it makes sense, if I add another button here, so let me just add the second one, and I'm gonna remove the class of red. It's not the one. This one should be duplicated, and I will remove the class of red. We will have another button that doesn't have any background style here. So, which means that we can use this BTN class as the placeholder for the button, and then add some other class that will actually set the background for the button so that we can have buttons of multiple colors, if it makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this second button here, and I'm gonna say that the gap for the hero navigation is expected to be 30 pixels. So let's find the hero navigation. The gap should be 30 pixels. And I want to align the elements to the center vertically. So this is the align items property to the center. Let's check this out. So now if I refresh the page, it looks like we didn't save something here. We didn't save the HTML. So now we have the button and the link aligned perfectly to the center vertically. Okay, we are done for the desktop. So how do we set the media queries to handle the tablet view? So for the tablet, we just need to switch these sections. Let me find the original image. We just need to switch the direction of the Flexbox that holds those sections. The shapes should go beneath. The text should stay on the top, right? So let's just do that with a single media query and a single rule. So we're going to be in the hero CSS. I'm going to say at media. Then the rule is going to be max width of 767 pixels because I don't want 768 to be touched by this media query. So I'm going to say that the hero description, actually the hero is going to have the flex direction of column. Flex direction of column. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so let's see what happens once we inspect this, and I want to move the inspector to the right. And now I want to use the device inspector, and I want to start shrinking for the tablet view. Boom, it has switched, but something goes not super well here. So as you can see, our shapes are not centered, right? So I actually want to change something so that the shapes stays stable and stays in the middle of its container here. And probably what I want to do is I want to wrap it with another container, and I will set so we have the hero shapes section. Then I'm gonna wrap these 4 shapes within another container that will have the fixed width and the fixed height, right? So at this point we need like 600 by 600 or something. So let's actually go and do that. So in the HTML, I'm gonna say dot shapes container or something. Then I will put all the shapes inside, and then I will say that the shapes container has the fixed width of 600 by 600. So let's find the hero shapes. Then it's going to be the shapes container. It's going to have the width of 600 pixels and the height of 600 pixels and height. And then I will make the hero shapes. So now I need to make the position. I need to make the shapes container to have the position of relative and the mean height of 6 pixels, while I need to, let's think about this. So it's gonna wrap the, okay, probably I just want to make this of display flex. Then I want to say that the flex, the justify items is going to be justify content story is going to be, it's going to have the value of center. So I want to center all the content inside of the hero shapes, and the align items is going to be off center too. Let's check this out. So, okay, so now we have this container and it looks to be stable. So it looks the same for the desktop and it doesn't look the same for the tablet, right? But what we can do is we can make this medium circle to be aligned from the right, but not from the left. So if we inspect this in the, so let's think about this. So 600 subtract 70. Let's take a look at this. So it's the medium one. So it has the left of 60 pixels. So if we have the total width of 600, and then we have the width of this as 60 pixels. So 600 subtract 100 should be 500 from right. Yes. So let me actually switch this to be right, and then 500 pixels. Let's check this out. Boom. So we have this shape. So the medium circle now doesn't move anymore, right? So it stays in the same place. We have some issue between 767 and the desktop view. I believe it's because I messed up, and instead of setting the media query for the tablet, I have set the media query for the mobile view. So this should be 1023 pixels. Okay, let's now, boom. So now it switches where it's supposed to switch. But still, I'm not happy with the position of this medium thing here. So I probably would say that this should be 400 pixels, not 500 pixels from the right. So I'm gonna update the medium to have the 400 pixels right value. Even, yeah, this actually looks good to me. Yep, and then if I now inspect this section, and if I inspect the section's container, I believe I can decrease the width of it to be 500 pixels. Yeah. So let's make it 500 pixels with 500 pixels, mean height 600 pixels. Okay, let's see how it looks like. Boom. Yes, so now it looks exactly as we have it in the mockup. So we have the text on the left, shapes on the right, right? So for the tablet view, they switch their positioning. So the text is now on the top the shapes are in the bottom, the last thing we need to do is for the mobile device, we need to make this text to be aligned to the center, this text to be aligned to the center. This button should be on the top of the link, and the rectangle should be hidden, right? So let's go and create this media query for the mobile view. And I will say that we have media, and then the max width, oops, the rule should be in parentheses. The max width is going to be 767 pixels. And then for the rules, I'm gonna say first that the hero h1.hero actually, because it's a class h1, is gonna have the text align center. Text align center. Okay, so also I want to add another selector here, which is the .hero space p. The paragraph has the text aligned to the center too. Let's check this out. Boom, it works, right? So then we need to have the link go beneath the button, right? To do that, I'm gonna take the hero navigation class, and I'm just gonna switch the flex direction to the column, to be the column, and I want to say that the align items should be centered so that they are centered horizontally. Looks good. So let's check out the mockup. Yep, pretty close, right? So and then the last part here is that we need to hide the rectangle. So I'm gonna say that the rectangle has the display value of none, right? Of none. And then the so the shapes container, or how do we call it, is going to be the shapes container, will have the display of flex and the gap of, like, let's say 30 pixels, right? So I will say that the shapes container is of display flex and it has the gap of 30 pixels, and it has the justify content of center, and then every shape should actually stop being positioned absolutely. So what I'm going to say position, and then the value of unset. Actually, this is going to be, oops, what, did I just remove the shape word, or didn't I save this? So it's going to be the shape, this class of shape, right? And then the position of unset. Should be good. Let's check this out. So pretty close, but we need the vertical alignment to be the center too, right? So I'm going to say that the align items should be center too, and I believe the gap is pretty small. Let's make it 60. Let's take a look at this. Boom. We just need to update the height of this section now. So the shapes container should have the height of, let's say, unset, just for it to let it calculate the height itself. Is it going to work? It's not going to work because the mean height should be unset too. I believe we are setting the mean height value here. So I'm going to say mean height unset. Pretty close, but the mean height should be there. So actually we can just say padding of padding. What's going on? Padding is going to be, let's say, 40 pixels on top and bottom and 0 on sides. Yeah, let's check this out. Okay, let's compare it to the mockup. Looks pretty close. I believe we have some greater padding value here, right? So 40 is not enough. Should be something like 70. Let's see how it looks like actually. Pretty close, right? So the button is above the link, looks good. The distance here between the heading and the text is probably different, right? So we can actually overwrite we can say that the hero description is going to have the gap of, let's say, 50 pixels for the mobile devices, right? So boom, looks a bit better. So the distance is now greater here, right? So yeah, but actually it looks like, I mean, it looks the same to the mockup. Okay, any questions so far?
Yeah, I have one question, Andre.
Yep. Mhm.
What is the purpose or benefit of having two separate CSS files?
Uh, so there is no actual benefit. I mean, it helps to probably keep the styles more clean. So, but you should kind of make sure that you don't have the overlapping names within all the files you have here. So, for example, I have classes declared here that I'm not actually styling through the hero. So, ideally, I should have added the hero here before each other selector, because I want to be super specific in case I have another selector of the same class in some other CSS file. They will be overlapping, and this kind of might create a conflict in styles, right? That it's going to be kind of hard to resolve, because you will never know which exact file the changes come from. For example, I can say that the shapes container here is of position, I don't know, sticky, for example, right? So I will switch this, and I might have some issues here. Do I have any issues? Oh, actually, we don't have any scrolling here. It's not gonna work. So let's actually say that it has the background of yellow, background color of yellow. Let's save this. Boom. As you can see, so if I have the same selector in two different files, all the rules will be applied in the order those files are connected to my HTML file. So all the styles in the hero CSS will override the styles from the style CSS. Does this make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so how do I resolve this? I need to inspect it, and I will see where every property comes from. You can see that these styles come from the hero CSS, while this property or this value comes from the style CSS, right? So now I can figure out which exact file this style comes from. So this is how I can resolve this. But technically, again, ideally, I would just I would split the styles for different sections into different files just to decrease the number of lines of CSS every file has. But in this case, I always want to be super specific about the style. So I want to add the main section class before each selector I use in this file. So that, I mean, I just increase specificity to make sure that these styles from this file only apply to a single section, and I don't have some common styles for all other sections. That's why I moved the common styles like red, section dark, and red font, and the BTN to the main styles file. Does it make sense? So this is kind of a global CSS file, but the hero CSS should contain only styles that belong to the hero section we were just working on. And I would do the same with the header. I just didn't do it previously because, you know, we just started, and I didn't actually think about this at that time. But now I believe it's better to actually create the styles. So for each individual section in its own file, just to decrease the number of lines of CSS. Because if you kind of start then asking me, hey, Andrei, why does it work this way? We will be just scrolling for half an hour, right? there is going to be a lot of styles here. So yeah. But again, we are going to move the common styles that are common for different sections into the style CSS, which will hold all the kind of global styles for the whole project. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it helps organize.
Yeah, exactly. So does the current today's section styling make perfect sense? Or anything you were confused about?
Yeah, absolutely. No. It
Okay.
falls right into place.
Cool. Let's go and style a new section. And this section is going to be the section of the features. And let's find the mockup for the section. So this, let me actually hide this thing, and let's find the section. Okay, so our section is represented by the section header, then the section description, and then for elements, each of the elements has the icon, the feature name, and the feature text. So how many Flexbox containers do you actually see here? Any ideas? So, okay. How many? So, who said 3? So I would say,
I said
okay,
two.
so
I was thinking the top and bottom.
yeah, but okay, so first of all, this features section is a Flex container itself with two elements going in a Flex direction of columns, right? So the first one is this, that combines the heading and the description, and then the second element that combines these four elements, right? So this is the Flexbox container number one. Then this is the Flexbox container number two that contains the section header and this section description. This is the Flexbox container number three, which contains the four elements. Every element is also a Flex container that has the Flex direction of column and contains the icon, the feature name, and the description. So I would use 4 Flex containers here. Does it make sense? Why? Okay, let's actually move to the HTML part, and it will click just in a while. So in our HTML file, we are going to add this section, and let's create a new section here. And the section represents this section. So it has the section dark. We don't need to use this class because our next section is going to have the light background. Then we have the class of content that actually is the first Flexbox container here, I believe. Okay, so let's create a section and let's create the layer of the content. Inside of the content, we will have the HTML element with the class name of, let's say, so it's going to be features info, and it will hold the heading 2 with the text of our features, right? I will just copy this text, and then I will paste it here in my heading 2, and then it will have the paragraph, right? So this description actually presents a simple paragraph of text, and I'm going to copy this text, and I'm going to move it inside of the paragraph here. Okay, good. So then the next container here is the actual features list, right? So we can give it a name of features list. So outside of the features info, I will add another container with the class name of features list. And then inside of this features list, we will have the 4 elements of class feature, where every feature holds the icon, the heading 3 with the feature name, and then the paragraph of text describing a single specific feature, right? So then I'm going to add the icon. So it's going to be the dot icon here. Then the heading 3 with the feature name, right? So that it just says feature name. So let's say feature name here. And then the paragraph with the description, I will just generate a text of 20 words here. So yeah, and now we can actually copy this feature and paste it 3 times here so that we have 4 features in our layout. And here is how our current layout looks like. We have the heading 2 saying our features, we have the section description, we have 4 features. Each of those has the name, the description, and the non-existing icon, but we have a class for the icon, so we will add the icons a bit later, but actually we can add the icons right now. So I will use a single icon of list for each of the feature. So to do that, I'm going to add the I element here with the class of, let's say it's going to be the FA, since we are using the font awesome, FA-list. This should actually work. Let's see if it works. And boom, we have this icon of the list here. So now I'm going to copy this I element and paste it in every icon class for every feature so that we have those icons for each feature in the feature list. Boom. So now we have 4 icons for every feature. Okay, let's actually start styling this. So the first thing, the first Flexbox container is actually already set because I have added this class of content here in my HTML that wraps the content of the section. Where is it? It's right here. And it already has the styles set to make this content container to be a Flexbox. So it's because we have set the shared class for every section. So here is this content layer, and it says that it's already of display flex. Now we need to set our features and the description to be a Flexbox container with the flex direction of column, and position the text to the header 2 to the center, and make this text in the paragraph to be aligned to the center too. Let's actually do this. So I'm going to create a new CSS file here, and it's going to be the features.css. Then I'm going to connect this file in my index.html here beneath the hero CSS. So it's going to be another link tag with the path to the CSS folder and then to the features CSS file. Okay, so let's actually grab the parent class for the features info. Actually, it's the features info, and add some styles to this class in the features CSS. So to create this selector by the class name, we need to set the period and then goes the class name, right? So then the curly braces for the list of CSS rules. And I will add the, let's say, display flex. So then we need to, so the flex will actually position the heading and the description horizontally. So as you can see, the heading is now on the left from the actual description, but we want them to be stacked vertically. So I'm gonna change or switch the main axis with the flex direction rule, saying flex direction is going to be the column, right? Okay, let's save this. Boom. Now the heading is above the paragraph. Then I want to say that the align actually justify content should be equal to center to position the elements to the center. And it actually does nothing in our case, because since we have switched the axis, the justify content is now controlling the flow vertically, not horizontally, right? So we need to apply the align items here. Align items center. Boom. And once I did it, our heading 2 is already centered. So now I need to make the text of the paragraph to be kind of centered too. And to do that, I'm going to select the features info section and then grab the heading 2 selector. And then I will just say text align center. Let's save this. And it actually didn't work. Let's check out our, so it's the div features info, then the heading 2. Oh, sorry, it's going to be the paragraph. So I took the wrong selector. It should be the paragraph. Boom. So now our text has the alignment to the center too. Okay, so what else do we need to add here? We need to add the distance between our features and the text. So if we take a look at the mockup, we have like, let's say, how much space do we have between the, so it's 20 pixels actually, right? So I can go back and we can control the distance between the flex children using the gap property, right? So I'm going to say that the gap here is expected to be 20 pixels. Cool. Now we have this distance between the heading 2 and the paragraph of text. Let's check out what font styles are we actually using here. So it says that it has the font size of 48 pixels. The font weight is bold, right? So, and the line height for the paragraph is 30 pixels. So let's move back to our styles. Let's say the line height is going to be 30 pixels. Then for the heading 2, let's say that features info heading 2, we will set the font size of 48 pixels. And then the font weight is going to be bold, but I believe it's bold by default, but we'll actually add this just to make sure. Boom. Now we have our features and the text beneath looking pretty much exactly as it looks in the mockup here, right? I believe so. And the color of the font is 353535, and I'm not sure if we have set it for the all styles globally, but the body is actually expected to have this section dark. Yeah, let's actually set this color for the body. So I will say color is going to be 353535, so that we are sure that all the fonts in our document are following this color, and they do now. Okay, let's now reposition the features. So we have 4 of them, and we need all 4 of them to go horizontally, right? So let's go to the index.html and grab the feature list class that is actually a common parent for each feature. And in the features CSS, I'm going to add this selector and say that it's going to be of display flex, which is quite enough for them to become being stacked horizontally. Now, as you can see, the features are stacked horizontally. Let's add some gap, which represents the distance between every feature inside of the Flex container. So I will say gap is going to be 30 pixels, for example. Let's save this. Boom. Now we have this distance, and every feature is going to be the Flex container with the distance of some pixels between the elements, between the icon, the heading, and the text here. So let's actually take a look at the mockup again. So I believe we have the distance of 11 pixels and 11 here. Yeah, so all three elements can stay as the direct children of the feature box because they have the same exact distance between each other. So we can say that the feature is going to be of display flex 2. Then it's going to have the flex direction of column, and then it's going to have the gap of 11 pixels. Let's save this. Boom. Now we have the features styled. So let's actually also check out the font size for the icon. It says it should be 32 pixels. Let's say that the dot feature, feature, then dot icon is going to have the font size of the 32 pixels, right? And then the color, we are using the Devslopes brand red color, which is the A5252. And I forgot the hash symbol. Okay, looks good. So now we have the red icon of the increased font size and the feature name, and then boom. Okay, so then if we take a look at the feature itself, the colors inside of the feature are all white, and the background, I believe, should be 49, 49, 49, and we have some padding inside of the feature on all four sides, right? So let's go back to the feature. Let's set the background color of 494949, and don't forget the hash symbol before. Then we have the color of white. Then we have the padding. Let's actually check out what the padding value is. So to check out the padding, I just need to select any element in Figma. Then I hold the Option key for Mac or the Alt key for Windows, and it will show me the dimensions between this current element and other elements. So as you can see, the padding is 20, right? So I can go back here and say that the padding is going to be 20 pixels on all four sides. Cool, we are pretty close. The last thing I want to style is the actual text here. So it looks like this text has the 16 pixel font size, right? So I'm not sure that it's 16 pixel initially. Let's inspect this and let's check out the computed styles, which should show us the font size, font family, font height. So it doesn't actually show the calculated font size, probably because we need to select the actual text here. Still no font size property. Anyways, let's just set it to be 16 pixels. So let's check out the class. So it's the paragraph inside of the feature. So I will select it through the dot feature and then P, and then I will say that the font size is going to be 16 pixels. And let's see if it actually updates or not. Once I save the file, well, probably it has changed slightly, but I don't see much difference. Anyways, looks good. Cool. So we have the feature set. So let's expand this to be the desktop view. So now we need some distance between the section description and the elements. And as you remember, our whole layout here is actually belongs to the content. But what we can do is we can combine a couple of classes. So if I say, so we have the features info here. Let me actually create the feature content class feature. Let me spell it correctly. Okay. And then I will say that it has the gap of 40 pixels. And now what I want to do is I want to go to my index.html and I want to add this class to the content class. So I'm going to just add feature content here. So, oops, content. Let's save this and boom, we have now this distance between the features description and the features list. And we also want some padding in the top and in the bottom, right? So let's actually say that it also has the padding of, so 40 pixels on top and bottom. I believe we should even use 60, and then 0 pixels on sides. Let's save this, boom. So now we have this distance from the previous section we have styled. Cool, so we are pretty much done with the desktop view. So what do we need to do for the mobile view? For the mobile view, we need to reposition these elements to be, so the features are expected to go 2 features in a row, right? Within 2 columns. So how can we actually do this? So we can use the flex rep property, which actually will, once we update the initial value of no rep to rep, it will actually allow us to let the items go to the second line in case they don't fit a single line. Let's actually do this. So I'm going to go back to this file and I'm going to create a media query, right? So I will say add media, and the condition for the media query, since it's at the tablets, is that the max width is expected to be 1023 pixels. Because the desktop starts from the 1024 pixels, right? So the tablet will act from 768 up to 1023. Once the browser is switched to 1024, it's expected to switch to the desktop view, right? So then inside of this media query, I'm going to say that the feature, let me think about this. Is that the feature? Yes, it's the feature. So we are going to update the width of the feature, and this is going to be calculated width. So we are going to use the calc function that will calculate the width of the parent, then take 50% of the width and subtract a half of the gap value, so that we are sure that 2 items can fit in a row horizontally. So let's go back here and let's apply the following. So we will say that the width here is going to be then the calc function, right? So inside of the calc function, I will use 50% of width of the parent of the feature, and then I will subtract the half of the gap. And as far as I remember, the gap is 30 pixels, right? So we need to subtract 15 pixels. 15 pixels. Let's save this. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to utilize the flex rep property and set it to the value of rep. Okay, let's save this and let's now shrink the viewport to the tablet size. So actually, nothing happened. Let's figure out why. That's an interesting case. So we have, it's because the flex rep is not supposed to be the feature property. It's supposed to be the feature content feature list property. Sorry. Yep, I made a mistake here. Well, let's save this. Boom, and we have 2 features in a row with 2 columns. So something I don't like here is that we don't have any distance from the screen here. So I want to add some padding for the feature content of, let's say, 30 pixels for the desktop and for the tablet, but I want it to be a bit smaller for the mobile view, because the mobile devices typically have the distances that can be divided equally by 16. And the padding on the left and on the right is typically 16 pixels because it's kind of pretty, the mobile device is much smaller, right? So 30 pixels for a mobile device is too much because the whole screen takes 375 pixels. If you subtract 60 pixels from this value, you will have a too narrow area for the content. But anyways, so boom, looks like we are all good for the tablet view, right? So let's check out the mockup. Pretty much the same thing, right? So let's now do the mobile view, right? So the mobile view should be somewhere here. So for the mobile view, we just have every feature going in a column. So basically we can create another media query here saying that the media for the max width of 375 pixels, which represents the mobile device, right? So, oops, sorry. It's this starting resolution of the mobile device. Actually, the starting one is 360, so it should be 767. Okay, let's save this. So for this media query, we are going to say that the feature is going to have the width of 100%. And this is pretty much enough to make the features stack Oops, sorry, we got the pixels. Okay, but here's the thing. We have the default value of the flex direction to be the column, to be the row, right? So they are actually going horizontally. So we have to override the feature list to have the flex direction of the column. Okay, let's do this. Feature list is going to be a flex direction column. Well, let's save this. And interesting. It's still in a row. Is something going wrong here?
Should
Max
it be
width
on the
7.
feature, the width, should it be 100% or pixels?
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much. You are absolutely right. My bad. Okay, so cool. Now we have all the features kind of following the layout we have, or the mockup we have here in Figma. Okay, so it looks like we are kind of done. Oh, by the way, I forgot to override the padding for the features content to be 16 pixels. So let's say that the padding is actually padding left and the padding right are going to be 16 pixels. Padding left and right, 16 pixels too. Cool, let's save this, boom. And now we have a better user experience for the mobile devices. Okay, so we are basically finished. Any questions?
I have two questions. One is a general setup question. I see, I've never seen it before. You have the CSS, and I guess for each section you have a different style link. Is that like best practice or that's just preference?
It's just the preference because I don't always remember which styles I have used for another section because we are styling a section a week typically, and I don't remember which names I used in the previous section. So I prefer to create another file to isolate the specific section styles, and I style all of them through the section, some kind of a section class name, if it makes sense, so that every kind of class name contains the feature word or is styled through some other layer. So ideally, I would take this feature content. By the way, this was kind of discussed in the previous meetup too, but anyways, so, and I would add it here so that I'm super specific that these styles will touch the features content children only. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, so that these styles don't overlap with any other section I will create in future. So yeah, I mean, it's just hard to remember the names.
Yeah, I like it because I was working on another project in the section and I got lost in my own CSS because it's just so lengthy. So I think I'm gonna start using that practice.
Yeah. So typically this actually reassembles the way you're gonna work with components when you get to the React module, because we are kind of using the per component CSS import, which means that every component has its own CSS file. So technically I would kind of consider these our features to be a component in the terms of React, if it makes sense. And I would actually create a separate CSS file for this component and import the CSS only in case I need this component to be rendered in my web page. Does it make sense? So this actually covers the future concepts you will learn. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm curious. Can you show us again what the cutoffs were for the different media responses? You know, for from desktop to tablet, what numbers you were using?
So I was using 767 pixels for the mobile device because I am expecting the 768 pixels to be the first least tablet resolution, right? So at 768, I am expecting the device to show me the tablet layout, right? So which means that everything that's below 768 pixels is the mobile device.
But I thought the mobile device cutoff was 375.
That's so the mobile device has either 360, which are the Android devices, right, or 375 pixel width. But it's when you have the actual device in your hand, right? what do we do for the browser between 375 and the first tablet resolution? Which files should we show in the browser? I mean, which styles should we show in the browser? So that's why I'm covering everything that goes from 0 up to 767 pixels as the mobile device, because it needs some styles, but which styles should we add there? I assume it's the mobile device styles, right? So then the tablet starts at 768 pixels. So everything that goes from 768 pixels from 0 to 1023 pixels will be the tablet device. I am just overwriting the styles for the tablet with this media query for the mobile, right? But basically they are the same. So if you think about the tablet and the mobile devices, they will use pretty much the same styles here. So it has some difference, but again, so this media query that says max width 1023 pixels is actually saying apply these styles from 0 pixels up to 1023 pixels width, right? Does this make sense? So this is the tablet, because I am expecting that 1024 pixels shows the desktop styles for me, right? That's why I'm taking 1 pixel back of 1023 pixels. Does it make sense?
From the project that I'm working on, I thought the tablet size was 768 and below.
Why below? I mean, is there any tablet that will have the resolution less than 767 pixels?
There is no actual resolutions of those devices. I'm just going by what the project instructed.
The tablets start from 768 pixels. So the least resolution for the tablet device will be 768 pixels. Does this make sense? So if you would purchase any tablet, the least resolution there will be 768 pixels. Everything that goes less is more a mobile device or a flip device. So the Android device resolution start from 360. If you kind of find the fold, those fold devices that you can kind of unfold and you have the double screen, like I don't know what the models of those phones are. So in this case, it will have 360 plus 360, 720 pixels width, but it's still a mobile device, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense? But it has the resolution of 720 pixels, which is still not 768 pixels. Okay, let's visually pretend this in Figma actually. So I'm gonna create a new layout here. Okay, so let's say this frame is 1024 pixels. So this, and the height is going to be something like this. So this frame represents the least resolution the desktop device can have. So the least resolution for the laptop you buy is 1024 pixels. I believe they don't even exist by now because everything has moved further, and now the least one is 1200 pixels. But by the time the instructions were written, the resolution the desktop view starts from is 1024 pixels. That's why the desktop will cover 1024 pixels plus. So everything that goes up is considered to be a desktop, right? So everything that's beneath 1024 is one type of the tablet device, right? So for example, I can, again, this is not the convention or something. This is the approach I personally use when I style something, so that my kind of layout looks exactly as I'm expecting for the tablets and for the mobile devices. So I'm explaining you my point of view on this, okay? So then everything that goes beneath 1023 pixels are the two types, right? So 768 pixels, boom, we consider this is the tablet, right? And then the last one is the let's say 375 for the iPhones, even though the Android devices have 360. Okay, so we have three strict devices where we are expecting some specific behavior. These are the desktop styles, these are the tablet styles, and these are the mobile styles. But I mean, it works when we hold the actual device in our hand. But what if we shrink the browser? Which styles should we apply in this gap? And which styles should we apply in this gap, right? Because this is 768, right? And this is 375. But we have the distance between 375 and 768, right? So up to 767. So which styles do you want to apply there? I personally prefer to apply the mobile styles until the width is 768, right? So this gap between the tablet, the least tablet device, and this tablet device, and this this least desktop device, I prefer to set the tablet styles because I assume that if I apply tablet styles at 768 pixels, it means that everything that goes up until it's desktop is still some kind of a tablet. Does this make sense?
Yes, but let me ask you this. You're talking about for like the purpose of the class and the projects, because in the real world, they're going to pull up the website on their tablet. There's not going to be a gap that they're going to be noticing or being concerned with. There's going to be one or the other with no transition between them.
I agree, but let's actually search for the popular tablet resolution. Just to see what tablet screen resolution starts worldwide. So let's see which resolutions tablets have. Okay, 600, 768, 834, 962, even 1280 is the tablet screen. Yeah, it's a big tablet. So as you can see, all the resolutions, or even 601. I didn't know that, by the way. I thought that 768 is the least one. I have never seen a tablet with this resolution. Then 820, right? And even, as you can see, 1024 is
so it
already
does vary quite a bit. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So everything that goes from 768 pixels up to 1024 pixels is a tablet. Does this make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That clears it up a lot.
Yep, cool. Okay, any other questions? That was a nice question, by the way, because it's always opinionated how to choose the actual breakpoints for the layouts to switch styles to within different devices. So I believe that with this system, when you use the 0 up to 767 is the mobile devices, from 0 up to 1023 is the tablet devices, you are covered 99% of the devices, if it makes sense. So those kind of that have this like 601 resolution, something unique, because I have never seen a device with such a resolution for a tablet, if it makes sense. Okay, cool. Yep. So we have 1 more minute for questions. So feel free to ask if there are any.
I got hopefully a quick one. I never seen. I noticed at one point for the width, you use the calc function. I have yet to run into that in the program. It hasn't been introduced as of yet. So I guess my question is, when would you use that? I see that you use it for width, and like I don't really know much about it.
So the calc function is well described by the MDN documentation. So it says that it lets you perform calculations when specifying CSS property values. So these are the types it can be used for. So I specifically used it for the length, right? So here are some examples. So we can calculate the width, right? It's basically the width property too. So everything that is connected on the measurement units of percents, like whatever, EMs, as you can see, everything can be used inside of the calc function to calculate the actual size. If it kind of inside of the responsive designs, because you never know how much the 100% takes actually, right? Because it all depends on the device the website was opened on, right? So, or the browser with, or et cetera. So too many dependencies. You never know how much this value takes. But the calc function will take the 100% of the current width, right? And then it will subtract 30 pixels from the current width. Does it make sense? So it actually allows you to calculate the values depending on your current kind of layout. or the current browser width you use, or the current viewport width you have, or the current parent width. So because the 100% here says 100% of the parent the current element you are styling has. Does it make sense?
Yeah, so you would mainly use that with media queries?
I would say that that's the main kind of usage case I use it for. But it can be used whenever you need to calculate anything depending on the current layout, if it makes sense. So for example, I could actually escape using media queries and set the calc value. No, actually, no, I'm not super correct here. Yeah, so I would say that the media queries, I mean, it's a specific task is what requires you to use something or not to use something, right? So there is no kind of task to use calc only within the media queries. I believe there is a good usage case for the kind of for the general layout or for the default styles, but I have just never met this case yet. So the media queries is where I use it a lot for the Flexbox. Probably you will kind of not even run into the usage of this function. I mean, but again, it all depends on the task. So I solve this task for the two items in a row Flexbox view for the tablet using the calc function. So there might be another workaround. So what's good about CSS, there are so many ways to solve the same thing. So it means that every task has
I looked at it and before you were going to do flex, I thought maybe you were going to switch it to grid and do 2 columns and 2 rows, and then as you use the calc function. I was like, what is this? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the grids and the Flexbox are pretty interchangeable technologies, right? So everything you can do with grid, you can do with Flexbox. So since Flexbox takes less lines of CSS code or CSS rules, I personally prefer Flexbox, as well as I believe 80% of developers actually, because grids kind of take a lot of lines of code to set the grid template first, then to set every item inside of the grid. There are automation rules, but anyway, so if you compare anything you create with grid and with Flexbox, Flexbox will have less lines of code for sure. And using Flexbox, you will see yourself utilizing like 6 or 7 rules all the time. All the rest of the rules in Flexbox just kind of, you just never use them. So just Flexbox is much easier to understand, I believe, and easier to use, and it takes less lines of code. But there are some cases where I would obviously use a grid. For example, if I have a perfect grid of, I don't know, 10 by 10 of elements, right? So I would probably use a grid. But here, since I was able to implement the multi-dimension or multi-direction way of doing things with Flexbox, like the grid does, right? So I would use the calc function. So it's just one of the ways of solving these tasks which I use. But actually, yes, it's absolutely correct. So we could say that the the features list is now going to have the display of grid, right? So we would say display grid, and then I would say that the grid columns would be the repeat. Oh, actually, it's just the column, 4 columns, right? So I would say repeat, and then I would take 4 columns, 1 fraction each, right? So then I would set the grid rows would actually be 1 fraction, right? So because we need just a single row, we need multiple rows. So I would actually say that it's going to be the auto, I believe. So then I'm not sure if this works or not. I believe the auto value allows the rows to kind of appear themselves. Oh, hold on a second. For the media query of the tablet, we have 2 columns, right? And we have 2 rows. So I will say that it's going to be the repeat. And again, it's going to be the 2 by 1 fraction each, right? So yeah, and then I would have to set every item, but I can also actually add the gap here of 20 pixels between, or 30 pixels between them. And that will actually be the same thing, React. That's true, right? So let's actually see what happens here. So it should be, yeah, so let's inspect this. Are they agreed? No, it's still Flex. How come? it's the media query for the features list. Did I save the changes? I did. So the features list didn't change its view from flex to grid. Interesting. Oh, it's because I never used the specificity. So, oops, let me actually copy this feature content here. Let's put it here. Let's save this. Still flex. Interesting. So feature content, feature list. We don't need this anymore. So feature content, features list. Okay, it looks like I have misspelled the features list here. Let's save this. Boom, now we have the grid. Yeah, totally, right? So it says that something that goes wrong here. So it says, oh, grid
Yeah, I think
template, grid
template
template,
columns,
template.
yeah.
Yeah, and template here, grid column. Okay, so let me
Grid
start
template
typing in grid template columns. Yep, and grid template rows. Template rows. But let's save this. Well, pretty close, not exactly, but again, we have
Yeah,
a
it's gonna
grid.
take a
So
lot more code. Yeah, you're right.
now we just need to say 100% here. Let's save this. Boom, done for the tablet with the grid system, right? So, but for the mobile device, we now need to update it to have the grid. So let me copy this selector. I will paste it into the. How did that work? It has its features list. For some reason, it's feature. I misspelled a couple of classes here. Yeah, so actually this is going to be now one column, right? So it's going to be the one fraction. And it's going to have repeat 4 rows of 1 fraction each. Yep, so boom, now we have it set for the mobile devices with the grid system, right? So we don't need this gap here anymore. We don't need the display grid here anymore. Let's save this, boom. Yeah, so now it's going to be a grid system both for the tablet and for the mobile devices, but it's going to be the Flexbox for the desktop view. Yeah, again, there are many different ways to solve the same thing in CSS. So this is the calc function is one of them that lets you not switch from the Flexbox to the grid system, right? Okay, cool. So at this point, I will wrap this meetup up. I will drop the daily feedback link in the chat here, and I will kindly ask everyone to share how the today's meetup worked for them. So the link is in the chat. I will appreciate any feedback you have. If that's a negative feedback, that's totally fine. We are kind of taking this feedback just to make sure we are on the right path or to change the path in case we are going in the wrong direction. So as a team, I mean, so please spend a couple of minutes to leave some feedback. And I guess I'll see you in the next session.